If you were to write out a simple step-by-step guide or an actionable steps on how to cure depression, what would it look like? What would be your first step?
I would say my first step would be titled control. Um, in my experience in my job and in my life dealing with feelings of depression or anything, I feel like a lot of people experience feelings of sadness and feelings of depression when they feel as if they have no control. And so what I've noticed is, first of all, the mindset has to change. Is you have to learn what control you do have, regardless of outside circumstances. And then physically, you have to start taking control and making those changes in your life. And I think from my experience, by taking those steps, you will leave the depression and cure it essentially through a process of taking control of your life, if that makes any sense.
So what would you consider what do you have control over and what do you not have control over?
So I think you could look at that in various ways. I think you could even go the biggest and say, I have control over everything in my life. Or you could start step by step. And I think you start with the step of the obvious is I have control over my mind and everything in my mind. My thoughts are 100% my control. And so in your head, you already took that step. Like, okay, now I control whatever's going on in here. And so you could literally create whatever thoughts you want, whatever pictures, ideas, whatever you want in your head is your control. And so you could essentially take control over that. Secondarily, I would say your health. You could take control of your health. You could control what you eat, what you don't eat, what you do, what you don't do. In terms of physical activity, your health is an extreme example. And thirdly, your input and your output. I say what books you read, what you're watching, what you're reading. Yeah, all of that. You could control your input and you control your output. What are you creating? What are you doing in your job? Are you doing good things? Are you helping people? Are you creating good relationships? All these things, I think, are step by step. You could learn to take control over everything you can take control over. And I mean, obviously, there are things in our lives we have no control over. I mean, where we're born, our genetics. I mean, you could go on the list and on and on, but I think thinking about those is no good, no help. So that's why I started by saying believing that you have control over everything is not a bad idea to kind of do. So that's what I think. What about you? What would be your first step to curing
Uh,
depression?
Um, in my own walks of depression that I've had in my life, I've realized that I've come to this conclusion that your feelings are your own fault. And if you don't believe that, then you probably still live in depression. And I can prove that by simply a thought exercise. One of the things that I do believe we have control over is our thoughts. And outside of that, we don't necessarily have control over anything else, but our thoughts do dictate everything else. Because what stems from a seed you can't plant a seed of corn and expect to get strawberries. And so if the thought, because thought produces action, well, it produces feeling, which produces action. Uh, so you can't plant a negative thought and get a positive action. That's just not how that works. So you can't think of binge eating and watching TV all day and end up going to the gym. That's not how that works. And the thought produces the action. And something we've talked about previously was seek understanding that seeking of pleasure results in suffering, and seeking of pain or discomfort produces joy. understanding that if we're looking for pleasure first, we will get suffering. So if you're looking for smoking, if you're looking for binge watching TV, it's pleasure. The resulting feeling afterwards is a dissatisfaction for life for not getting anything done. And if we choose the discomfort, like doing your chores, making your bed, doing your laundry, because I think of the most depressing times in my life, it felt like I had absolutely no control. I had no control over my income. I had no control over my ability to go anywhere, travel anywhere, do anything. That's when I was the most depressed, when I didn't have control over anything. And the only way I could gain control was by doing the little things: brushing my teeth, doing my laundry, washing everything, cleaning the house. And it made me feel good. Um, and I think that when it comes to curing depression, it comes down to obviously your input, like you said. And the only way to cure it is to change what you think about. Because I believe that depression is the result of our negative self talk, and suicidality is a result of our inability to keep agreements with ourselves, because we seek to annihilate the thing that doesn't honor its word. That is apparent in friendships and relationships, and then also with ourselves. The only time that you get to the point of self-annihilation is when you haven't keeping a number of your agreements made with yourself in a given amount of time. And so if you don't show up for yourself when you say you do, you seek to annihilate that piece of you. And that results in what we see as suicidality. So to cure depression, it comes down to keeping your agreements. If you have no control over anything in your life right now, whether it be finances or friendships or whatever it may be, your health, say you feel like you've lost control of your health, then you need to take control of the only things you do have control over. And that may be doing your laundry, that may be washing the bathroom, that may be reading a book, that may be doing some push-ups, opting for the fruit instead of the cake. Start making little agreements, not big ones, and stack those wins. So I'm going to brush my teeth at this time, and you go and brush your teeth. I'm going to do the dishes now and clean the counters, and you complete the task. If you do not complete the task, then you have not completed the agreement you made with yourself. If you complete it, you will feel good. Even though it is discomforting and somewhat painful to sometimes do those things of washing the dishes and cleaning off the counters, it's not always fun. You can make it fun. You can listen to music, but you have to embrace that discomfort and that pain of doing the chores and the daily things that improve your surroundings, because you don't feel good when there's a stack of dishes in the sink, when your clothes are not washed, when your floors are dirty, and your house smells dirty. You don't feel good. You feel like shit. When your house is clean, when the dishes are done, when your clothes are washed, when your bed is made, when that book is finished being read, you feel good. You feel great, because you're following through on agreements. And so I think it comes down to, number one, what you think about. And to cure depression, you have to start stacking agreements that you complete, that you follow through on. Without following through on those agreements, depression will lead to the ladder of self-annihilation. That's my belief. That's my core belief.
I like what you said about emotions and feelings. One thing that I think about in terms to your thoughts and your feelings and controlling those and the control you have over those, I like to think of the Book of Joy, because that is one of the conflicting arguments between the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. The Dalai Lama believes we can train our thoughts and our feelings, the initial thought and feeling that come based on a trigger, as in Desmond Tutu does not. He says you cannot control that. And I believe what the Dalai Lama believes is, I believe we can train our thoughts and we can train our feelings over time. I think little by little we can train our reactions to certain events. I mean, I've seen it several times in my life. I just depending on your job and what you read, is your thoughts and your feelings change, and based on like something that could have made you extremely angry earlier now may not, and that's just testifies to me of that. But I think there is a real big association between thoughts and feelings. The more I think about it, and when I think about feelings and emotions, I think of faith and fear, and I think every emotion falls under one of those two things. And basically, if you have a positive emotion, it's on faith, and a negative emotion is on fear. And I don't think it's bad to have a negative emotion or a negative thought, but I always like to compare it to trend lines in terms of stocks. Is it's not going to be as straight up. It's going to have little downs, but you don't want that little down to turn into a major down.
Mhm.
And so I think if you're having constant feelings of faith, positivity, and emotions, and training your mind to react to certain things in certain ways positively, I think it's going to be a lot better in terms of your feelings. And so, in terms of things that you can control and try to train to take control over, I think that's a big one. Is that I didn't say that you said is your feelings and your thoughts.
As you said something important, and it reminded me of outwitting the devil. When it comes to controlling your thoughts and your feelings, I think an important point that I got from Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill was hypnotic rhythm. It controls everything. Hypnotic rhythm controls literally everything, and it's basically the rhythm of everything in nature, of the way a plant grows, the way you grow, and it follows a path. Whatever your thoughts. So, like a lot of times, it's kind of like stacking your wins or following a positive trend. Hypnotic rhythm is when you take a thought and you repeat that thought enough times that it becomes habit. And habits are what control our life. If you change the system, which is the habit, it will produce the outcome, the changed outcome. And so to make the argument that you can, change your thoughts and you can change your emotions immediately is simply by asking yourself a question. So quickly, think of what an elephant looks like. What does an elephant look like? I just changed your thoughts. Immediately. That's how fast it changes. Now, to change emotions, it's simple. Think of the happiest moment of your life, or think of the biggest win you've ever made, or try to remember a time when you found money on the ground, or try to think of your favorite person's smile. I've changed your emotions. That's how fast that can be controlled and changed. And that's my argument. Now, if the question is, think of the thing that pissed you off in the last week, there's a negative emotion. Think of somebody that has wronged you tremendously. There's a negative emotion. And it just comes down to the questions we ask ourselves to create the emotions we want to feel. And hypnotic rhythm is, what results do you want? What questions should you ask yourself to produce those results? Or what ideas should you initially just ask yourself every day to create that path, that easy path forward? If you want happy results in life, if you want enjoyable results in life, you have to think of those pathways. I like one of Tate's thoughts on this is, I don't seek to be happy every day, I seek to be proud. Because if I think, what's going to make me happy right now, immediate response may be pleasure. So it may be like, oh, I want to watch a movie. That'll make me happy. Instead of what's going to make me proud. Doing my chores will make me proud. Telling my family I love them or my friends that I appreciate them will make me proud, right? Going to the gym and working hard on myself will make me proud. Eating healthy will make me proud. And I think asking yourself the right questions, what's going to produce this result, and having the accurate question. Because if you think of things like what's going to make me happy, it's going to lead you down a path of pleasure. And as we've discussed before, pleasure, the ultimate outcome of pursuing constant pleasure is self-annihilation. So we shouldn't seek pleasure. We should seek, number one, joy, discipline, and pride. And I know that sounds vain, but I don't mean pride in a sense of just trying to be better than everybody else. I think what makes you proud of yourself? What makes you go, I did good, I'm proud of myself. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think one of the best ways to change your initial emotions, I feel like, is changing your paradigm. And that doesn't happen instantly. That's not a quick fix. I think based on uh, a length of input, of experiences of education, maybe of reading books, of listening to certain people or associating with certain things, your paradigm could change on things. In terms of emotions, I think of this week, I'm thinking of a time I had a negative emotion. There was a time I was running outside, and this guy on this motorcycle, he just zooms by me, and I'm just like mad. I'm like, oh, dude, what the heck, dude? Like, why? And then I caught myself. I was like, why am I doing that? Like, why am I negative about that? And I was like, I should be happy that he's happy. I mean, he's having a good time on his motorcycle. I'm like, who bad? And he's like, he's not hurting anyone. And it's just a matter of thinking that. And I think over time, let's say next time I catch myself earlier, not after the thought, but during the thought, oh, like, you know what? I'm happy for him. And, maybe the next time as you catch it, you don't even think it. You're like, hey, go for good on him for having fun, And so I think over time we could change our paradigms based on what goals we want and what our inputs are and how we want our outputs to be. So in terms of, I think embracing discomfort is a huge part of everything. I know we've talked about it a lot, and obviously if you're pursuing happiness, and like that's my goal, it's like I want to be happy, we're going to be pursuing pleasure, which is essentially going to bring us the opposite of where we really want to be, because I want to be happy. Drinking makes me happy, but then drinking brings out all these negative consequences, which is going to make me worse off than I am. So I think in terms of depression, this could be a really bad downhill, is when you seek happiness, because happiness can be confused with pleasure, and which has really bad consequences. And so that's where you got to look at the big picture and say, I want to have joy. And that's where you got to make sacrifices, and you got to embrace that discomfort. Say, how do I want that joy? What's the big picture? What do I want in the end? What do I want control over in the long run? Like bringing it back to control is like, I'm depressed, I'm overweight, I want to get in the gym, I want to lose this weight. Okay, now that's your big goal. That's joy. So now let's embrace that discomfort and do what we need to get there. So I think in terms of joy and getting rid of depression, I think there's two main things you could look at, and that's going back to the input and the output. And both of them aren't going to be comfortable. Don't get me wrong, comforts are great here and there, but obviously all the time it's not going to be a good alternative. If I had comfort all day long, I'm going to have consequences that are going to make me depressed in the long run. So I got to have daily discomfort, daily goals. In terms of input output, what am I reading, what am I listening to, what am I viewing, and then in terms of output, what am I creating? And one quote that I really like from Earl Nightingale is, in terms of life, a lot of times we like to compete. Like, I like to compare myself with people. It's like, oh, I want a better physique than him, so I'm going to compete and I'm going to try to get that better. But that's not what it's about. That's not going to bring the right mindset. That's going to bring you into further downhill of depression. It's about creating. How can I better myself? What can I create personally for myself? And based on my input. And so get that input, get that output, and in both areas, embrace that discomfort, make those goals, build those habits, and I think that will bring you to joy and get rid of your depression.
Say competing. Isn't competing the thief of joy? No, comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy. So when we compare ourselves to others, we steal our own joy. I think that was something that you kind of reminded me of when you're talking about comparing ourselves to others. Um, and you're right. Changing your paradigm is incredibly important when it comes to annihilating depression in the long run, because I know that this isn't traditionally taught, or um, Western society doesn't like this idea of curing depression. I know that a lot of people find it a helpful crutch for for their negative output in life. Um, it's a form of currency in exchange of friendship for a lot of people. Um, and if that's your desired output and your desired friendships, just know that you are perpetuating that state of existence forever until you change that. Um, because there was a span of 9 years where I was constantly depressed. And my input, like we've talked about, was pleasure. That was like my main goal, was like, what's going to make me happy? What's going to please me right now? And I had, various discomforts that I pursued, like the gym and whatnot, but I pursued it for the wrong reasons. Like when I think of when I was young and I had no results in the gym, I was working out for girls. I was working out to like look good for the ladies. And the best results is when I started working out for myself. When I was just like, I want to look good for me, man. That was when I got the greatest results, because there was no external comparison. Like, oh, I'm going to get the girls if I look like this guy, or I'm going to get the girls if I look like this guy. It changed to where, like, I want to look like this for me because I feel good when I keep working on this. And if I can, I remember at the time I wanted to be able to incline press dumbbells of, I think it was like, the goal was like 50 pounds. And I was at like, I remember 40 pounds. I was like, oh, one day I want to, upright press the 50 pounders. And I remember it changed when I was training with one of my buddies, Cole. He was able to do 60 pounds. And I was like, shit, man. Like, I want to do that just to be able to do that. I didn't want to do it for anybody else. And the speed at which I hit that was insane. And I blew past it. It was a single day working out with my buddy Alex where I completely blew past the 60s. I was training at 50s, and I remember at one point I was doing 55 for like a set of 6. And we did all these other workouts for a week. And I wasn't thinking about anybody else. I wasn't thinking about Cole doing the 60s. I remember working out with Alex, and I was feeling great. I was feeling really good. And I was like, gonna grab the 55s to do my press, and they weren't there. And my buddy Alex was like, grab the 60s, pussy. No, the 60s. I did the 55s, and I was gonna do the 60s next. And I was like, I'm gonna hit the 60s, and the 60s weren't there. Somebody was using them, and I was like, oh no. Like, I'm not gonna be able to hit them. And I looked at my buddy Alex, and he was like, grab the 65s, pussy. And I was like, oh. And I grabbed the 65s, and I did like a set of 10 or 12, and I was blown away. I was like, whoa. And I like looked at him, and he was like, grab the 70s. And I was like, all right. And I went and grabbed the 70s. I was like, oh, you think I could do this? And he's like, yeah. And I remember doing them for a set of 8. And I was like, looked at him. I was like, you think I could do 75s? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And I remember hitting the 75s. And I wasn't doing it for anybody else. Like, it was solely for me. Um, and I think that's important, is when we chase these things for comparison of others to be better than others, we'll never achieve them. But when we do these things for ourselves, when we do the dishes so we can feel good about our kitchen, it's so much better than doing it for other people. Like, yes, you do it in a rush when people are going to come over, but you don't feel good about that. You're like, okay, like, you kind of feel like a piece of shit. You're like, okay, it's clean now, but like, if you do it for yourself when nobody's looking, that's where real respect comes in. That's where like you actually respect yourself. You're like, I'm doing the dishes, nobody's coming over. I'm doing them because I want the kitchen to look good for me. That's when things change. And I think that's incredibly important, is to not do these things in comparison for others, but to do these things for ourselves, because it makes that lasting, I guess, that trend of hypnotic rhythm of continually doing these things just to improve ourselves, which in the long run, I truly believe can completely annihilate our depression, like get rid of it forever. Those are my thoughts on
I
that.
I like the idea, I mean, in terms of comparing yourself to others, I think it all narrows down to intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. And I think in terms of depression, one of the biggest, uh, relations with depressions is our relationships. And I think your intrinsic and extrinsic motivations are heavily based on your relationships, whether you're relying on someone else or yourself for your happiness. And, thinking to my terms of my greatest dealings with depression were in relationship problems, either breakups or so on. And I've learned over time that that was because I was relying on that person for my joy. And I've learned that that's not good. That's not good at all. You can't rely on someone else for your own happiness. And so when you're comparing yourself to others, it's kind of the same thing. It's like you're not relying on yourself for your own happiness. And in terms of building relationships, you got to be able to be happy yourself before that other person, right? That other person, don't get me wrong, they make you happy and they should. But if you're relying on their happiness, like, crap happens. Breakups happen, death happens. If you're relying on that person for your happiness, then you're just taking a gamble that with depression. And so that is one thing I've learned is in terms of relationships, you have to be able to be self-sufficient in your joy. Like, I make myself happy. I am happy alone. If there's someone else that wants to join me and be my significant other or my friend or however it may be, they could join me, but I don't rely on them. We could have happiness together. And I feel like being social is a big part of joy and not being depression. I think when we are comparing ourselves to others, when we are relying on someone else for our happiness in a relationship, I think we truly are isolating ourselves. Like, even though I am with someone, or even though I am with someone comparing myself to them, I think you are truly isolating yourself in several ways because that person leaves and you are truly alone, aloner than you ever have been. And so, or like when you compare, but when you are self-reliant on your own happiness and then other people come along, and that's where good joy can come from. And I had an idea. What was the idea? You said something a while back about relationships. I just thought about it, but I lost it.
Is it the love is a currency or no? It functions in reverse or in
No,
relationships?
it'll come back to me.
Okay.
But yeah, I just think relationships and being self-sufficient in relationships, but then again, not being alone and not isolating yourself in any relation of the term is vital to
Mhm.
joy.
Well, we are tribal creatures. Like, we feel the best when we are making a positive impact, when we're doing well in helping improve other people's lives. I know, especially with what's going on right now with GameStop, there's a trending quote that's being used all over Reddit and all of the GameStop forums and Superstonk and whatnot, and it's "Apes together strong," and it comes from Planet of the Apes, and it's in every post. You have, I remember in GameStop, I think it's like required that you mention apes or something like that, and it's constantly being said is "Apes together strong, apes together strong," and it's a joke, but it's actually true. And if you read any of Earl Nightingale's works, Napoleon Hill, Bob Proctor's, you'll learn that you can't build anything like substantially large without a mastermind group, without a group of people. You cannot be successful unless you have a team of people working with you. It's the same thing in everything you really want to do. You can't make a family with just one person. That doesn't work. You have to have two people. You have to have more than one person. You can't build a company with just one person. You can't. You you can't make a church with just one person. You can't do anything with just one person. So it's imperative to have a team or a tribe. Um, and so, like you said, it's important. Those relationships are important. You have to be strong and independent in yourself in some areas. But when you finally get to the point of feeling good about yourself and your output in your life, you to achieve joy, you want to spread that positive, I guess, your output into the world as its input. You want to make sure it's a positive impact. And when you have a group of people that you are able to make a positive impact on, not even a group, but just like a community, a community that you're a part of, that you are putting a positive impact in, results in like perpetual joy. Like I talked about, there's people at the gym, there's people like the local grocery store, there's people at like all over that I have a great amount of joy when I see them, because I know that my main goal when I see them is what can I do to make this person's day better or help them smile, right? I don't want anything from it. I just want to improve their day, their life, because who knows what's going on. But there was a time in my life when I was younger where it was a single smile from somebody that saved my life. Like it completely changed. Like there was a day where I was in complete self-annihilation and was convinced I was just done and I was going to go. And out of nowhere, somebody just smiled at me. And I loved the smile. It meant everything to me in that moment. They didn't say anything to me. They didn't say a single thing to me. And the impact was astronomical. Like it changed everything for me that day. And I was like, you know what? Like life's kind of worth it. Like that was really nice of them. And I never told them. Like I never told that person. But most people don't understand how important their impact is and their positive impact is. And when you do go out of your way and make an effort to improve the lives of the people around you with your impact, that joy doesn't last just a day. It lasts for months and sometimes years. And like I said before, that love is a currency that functions in reverse. So if you want that love to come back to you, you have to put it and plant it everywhere, in everything, and all around you if you want it to come back. And that's the biggest problem in a lot of relationships I see is like, what can this person do for me? What are they going to do for me? Like, they don't make me feel loved. They don't do this and this and this and this for me. Like, they're not doing enough. And it's like, you're bitching about them. Like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm perfect. I do everything right. No, 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 no. Like, the relationship sucks because you're not putting enough into it. Like you're not putting enough into your relationships around you, and that's why things feel like they suck, like people are inadequate. And I think that's important when it comes to relationships and annihilating depression is like, what are you doing for people? Because if you feel like people aren't doing enough for you, I guarantee you're not doing enough for them. That's my belief. I know that I'll probably get shit on for that one.
That's funny because that was the thought. That was the exact thought I was thinking that I wanted to bring up.
Go for it.
I was saying that's your whole thing. That's funny that you hit it. Is the love is the currency that works in reverse. That's what I was saying that you say that I was gonna bring up. But I think we tend to take a lot, and we tend to give less. And I think that is one of the biggest contributions to depression is the attitude of take, 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 instead of give, give, give. And if you really think about it, if I don't take anything from anyone, but all I do is give, I feel like I have nothing that's going to make me sad.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, there is times and places for taking, but I think majority of your efforts should be focused on giving, essentially creating, or in other words, output. So in terms of associations with people, I like to think of one thing that came to my mind is I think the people you associate with, whether it's a significant other or friends, is I think you should have the same goal and purpose. And I think that's the number one reasons why relationships fail is because you don't have that goal and purpose. Whether you didn't communicate it to each other, or whether you didn't pay attention to it, whatever it may be. One thing I really like to look at is you look at bros, right? And bros, it tends to be a beautiful relationship because a lot of times they share the same goal. They want to go to the gym. They want to play games, and whatever it is, they tend to share that goal, and it works, and it's a beautiful thing. But in terms of an intimate relationship, I think a lot of times it doesn't work because you don't share that goal. I look at my past relationships that didn't work, and obviously that's where the long-term goal, it wasn't combined with both of us, and it didn't work out, and it led to a downturn. And so if you share the same goal, I feel like that's where it's okay to take. If you share the goals with that person and you're like, okay, like I could take from this guy, but I'm not relying upon this guy, but I'm also going to give. But I really like the idea. Yeah. You give more than you take. You got to love to receive love. It is that currency that works in reverse. And I think that is, especially religiously speaking, you look into religion, and one of the major things taught is how to become happy or how to have joy is through acts of kindness, acts of service and charity, all of that. And it does work. I mean, I don't have much, but I can go help some people. I can go do some service. I could say hi to that guy, talk to that person, whatever it may be. I think all of those are going to make me happy. And so I think that is another great thing you could do if you're struggling with depression, is start focusing on giving and stop taking as much.
Hmm. Because when you think about it, the times when we were kids, or even just in general, that we felt the best about ourselves. And when it comes to depression, it comes down to how you feel about yourself. Like, it's the times when you saw somebody on the side of the road trying to change their tire and you stopped and you helped them. Or it's the times where you had an elderly neighbor that couldn't shovel her driveway and you got up with your buddies or whatever and you went and shoveled. Or the times when you raked the leaves for somebody, when you found some sort of service that you could enact. And it doesn't even always have to be those things. It can simply just be smiling and remembering somebody's name. Like, making an effort to remember somebody's name, because the most beautiful sound that anybody can hear is their own name. I think that is in How to Win Friends and Influence People. The most beautiful sound that somebody can hear is their own name. And people, you don't realize this, but people love hearing their name. And if you can remember their name and say it to them, it's music to their ears. And if you can say their name with a smile, dude, it's a symphony. And you see that smile immediately reflected back. It's not like delayed, it is immediate. If you can smile and say somebody's name, because it's the same thing when you were a kid. When you had friends or uncles or cousins and they'd look at you and they go, Adam, you were like, yes, it's me. Like, I'm here. And you felt good because you saw an expression of joy in them witnessing your existence and saying your name. You're like, yes, I'm ready to show up this way. And you feel good. And so when you do that for others, if you want an immediate mirror of happiness, that's one of the best things you can do, is just go out and find somebody you know or meet somebody new and say their name and say it over. Like, you meet somebody new, like, oh, what was your name? They'd be like, oh, Jennifer or whatever. You're like, lovely name, love that name, Jennifer. Like, I'll make sure that if I see you, I say hi. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your day, Jennifer. I'll see you later. Like, you can say their name and smile, even in passing. Find out somebody else's name and say it. And I think impact is one of the most important things for curing depression, is when you have a positive impact, when you're creating a positive impact, you want to stick around. Because the people that see you, that you are making that positive impact on, they light up. And they, dude, like, how are you? And they say your name, and you get that immediate mirror effect of just like joy being shined back to you because of something you did previously that you're like, oh shit, like, yeah, I made a positive impact in that person's life. Shit.
I think in terms of just thinking about times where maybe I was the happiest, I think you could relate almost every one of your greatest memories to times you were giving and you were doing charity and having a good impact. And I think that's kind of cool. Just thinking some examples of just like, I don't even know if you remember this, but there was like a night where it was just snowing like crazy, probably the biggest snow we've ever had. And we just decided to jump in the car, drive around, and push people out of the snow. And that's what we decided to do. And we did that the whole night. And it was like so fun for me that I remember it. And it was like one of my greatest memories. And we were just giving, we were just helping people and just doing that and seeing their reactions. It's one of my greatest memories. And yeah, just thinking about any one of my happiest memories is where you were giving, because I think that gives you the best joy in terms of anything. One thing that I think is interesting is what a lot of people turn to in depression is medications. And what's funny is if you look at it in terms of giving or taking, what are you doing?
You're
You're
taking.
taking.
You are taking.
And so I don't think medications are the way to go. Don't get me wrong. I believe there are some chemical imbalances in some people's brains. We're all born with some. I mean, not all of us. There's a lot of people born with, weaknesses or some things wrong. But I think the majority, if not 99% of people that turn to medications is just not the right route to go. And I think if you go to your doctor and you say, I'm depressed and I've been depressed for 6 months, and he says, here's a medication, I think you need to leave that doctor, because you need to exhaust all your natural remedies first.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, yeah, you're taking, when that medication comes to you, just take it.
Mm-hmm.
That's an instant gratification. That's comfort. That's the opposite of everything we were talking about in terms of curing depression. And so don't take the medication, give
Mm-hmm.
give a good experiences to someone or something.
I think in tandem to that, like you said, you're taking medication. And I know a lot of people will be like, no, I have this because I have such and such, imbalance or whatever. And I think the most important thing that I learned when it came to my depression was imbalance. Like, I have an imbalance. I need to be balanced out. And those medications don't balance you out. They mask the symptoms for a certain amount of time. Because if they balanced you out, say it was a vitamin D deficiency, you need to take vitamin D or you need to get out in the sun. And anybody that knows this is sun exposure gives you, number one, when it hits your eyes and it hits in your eyes process that UV light, it turns into serotonin. And serotonin is imperative for happiness. Not only that, like vitamin D helps your body process and deliver nutrients to various organs and various parts of your body. And we know that the highest suicide rates are in some of the cloudiest parts of the US, in the areas where people are not receiving sun. And so they're not getting that vitamin D. And if you're not finding what you're missing and supplementing or creating those things, of course you're going to seek for the temporary masks or the things that are going to mask those things. They're not fixing the problem, though. And with a lot of depression, I would say the majority of it is, yes, an imbalance. It's a missing of a hormone. It's an imbalance of hormones. It's an imbalance of nutrients. And trying to just take medications that are going to give you a temporary high instead of actually fixing the problem isn't going to improve this situation at all. It's just going to put off the inevitable. And I think that's important to remember, is that I think that the majority of depression, in fact, maybe not all of it, can be absolutely cured by finding out the root issue, whether it's a hormone imbalance, whether it's a nutrient deficiency, or an inactive lifestyle. Like you said, exhaust the natural resources, exhaust all of them. If it's hormones, find out what omegas you're missing, find out if your sleep is crap, if you're not getting enough magnesium to improve your sleep. Exhaust those natural resources first. Exhaust all of them. And I guarantee along the way you're going to find the cure. And I say cure because I mean it, whether it's you need to drink more water, you need sun exposure, And if you don't have a sun where you are, I'm going to say it. Get a subscription to a tanning place. Go for 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Just go tan. Get some sort of UV light. Get some sort of light on that skin and in your eyes. Obviously, don't go without eye protection in a tanning bed. That is dangerous. But you have to exhaust those natural resources, because if you don't, you're going to be looking for taking opportunities to mask the situation, to just put off the inevitable of self-annihilation. So to fix that thing, you need to find the issue. Whether it's a hormone imbalance, whether it's a nutrient deficiency, or an inactive lifestyle, I guarantee it's one of those for 99% of people, if not all of them. And exhaust those first. It's going to be discomfortable. Like it's going to, you have to embrace that discomfort of trying and trying again and trying again. But I would say it's probably better to do that than trying a shit ton of medications that may lead you to absolute self-annihilation. It would be way better because you are actually curing it instead of making the symptoms subside for a little while. Because I say this with full confidence, I cured my depression. And I did it by exhausting all of the natural remedies. I take vitamin D every day, and I live in Hawaii. Like, I am exhausting as much of it as possible. I provide a positive impact. I make sure that I go out of my way to improve the lives of others as best as I can. As for hormones, I get my sleep, and if I don't get my sleep, I feel like crap. I feel worthless, and I go, okay, gotta get better sleep tomorrow night, and I will feel better. Active lifestyle, I go to the gym or surf as much as I possibly can, and I feel good. And dude, depression, gone. Like, I am productive to society. I have a job that I love. All of my depression, all of it, gone. Doesn't exist. And it's because I have exhausted those natural resources. I was depressed for 9 years. I seeked self-annihilation. Every single morning I prayed for something to kill me. For 9 straight years, I was like, God, take me out. Hit me with a car. Annihilate me today. For 9 years straight, I said that every single day. Thank God he didn't. For 9 years straight, I wanted to die. And when I finally started exhausting all of the resources, I was like, I'm depressed. I live in a place where I don't get to see the sun for about 6 months. I gotta leave. I have to leave. Or I've got to get my vitamin D in. And I did that. And I'm like, okay, happy. Still a little depressed in these areas. Why? I'm not providing a positive impact. I'm taking too much. Okay, let's start giving. Focused on absolute giving. Annihilation was out the fucking window. Self-annihilation was out the window. I felt really good. And I was like, how can we get to joy now? And I started exhausting more and more resources to get to joy. Not just feeling good, but absolute joy. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind, is it's not just feeling good is the goal, but actual joy. And it never comes from taking. It literally never comes from taking.
I've been studying steroid use a lot recently.
Okay.
And I think it's the same type of concept. When looking at steroids, a lot of people will justify the use of steroids, and it's being super glorified in the media right now. But they justify it because they think they've already reached their natural potential, their maximum natural potential. And if you look at it, and you could listen to, exercise scientists, is like, you ask them how many of these guys have actually maxed out their natural potential, and they're like, well, it's less than 0.01% of these people. They have so much more potential in terms of their exercise regimen and nutrition. They have not maxed out their potential. And so in relation to medications and depression, is none of these people have come close to maxing out their remedies, these natural remedies. Not even close. Like, are you exercising every day? Are you optimizing your nutrition? Are you going outside? Do you have good relationships with people you're getting out of the house? Are your inputs good? It's just like so many areas. Are you doing all of those areas? I guarantee you it doesn't take all of them to get rid of your depression. If anything, 1 or 2. And so these people, they want, it's just like these guys, they want to get big. They want the steroids. They go and they take it. And they're hiding it behind, oh, but I maxed out all my natural potential. Just like the person that goes and takes the medications, like, oh, I've already tried it, and you haven't. You haven't tried. And now you're altering the chemicals in your brain because you're taking these medications, and it's just going to make things worse because now you're taking and you're going for this instant gratification rather than embracing the discomfort and reaching a long time joy that's going to bring you joy in the long term. And so, in terms of these medications, one thing I like to think about, same as steroids, is you're trusting a few decades of modern medicine versus thousands and thousands of years of evolution. You don't think evolution, and if you believe in God, God
Mhm.
has created natural remedies for these things? You think he's like, oh, everyone past the past few decades, they don't need medications, and so I'll save them for the... No, he's obviously invented these things. If you believe in evolution, if you believe in science, you don't think science has created a way for us not to be just super depressed our whole lives? I think we have amazing mechanisms of our body, and then myself personally diving into exercise and nutrition deeper and deeper every day, the more you realize how amazing these bodies are, and how all we're doing, if we're not getting something we want, if we're in pain in any area of our lives, is we're lacking in a certain area. If you have an injury of your body, it's likely because you have muscle imbalance. You have one muscle that's overreacting and not the other. And so you need to engage the other muscle more, improve your form. It's the same concept in life. Is if you're lacking in an area, you got to explore your options and take steps, natural steps, to forgive those options. Trust in evolution, not in modern science, because that hasn't been around long.
Mhm.
It's not going to fix you.
And when it comes, there was one guy that was talking about it. I think I sent the video to you when he was an active steroid user in his youth, and he firmly believes that use of those PEDs takes life force from later in life and gives it to you now to exacerbate the results. But it comes at a cost of that life force being removed from later in your life. And it's been shown that yes, steroids improve muscle strength and size, but reduce ligament, elasticity. It reduces ligament strength. And so though you increase your muscle size, you increase your risk of injury. And so it is a trade. And I like you said, guarantee you have not exhausted all of your natural options. I guarantee you have not. I guarantee you're not getting 8 hours of sleep. I guarantee you're not hitting your protein goals. I guarantee you're not getting all of your macro and micronutrients. I guarantee you're not getting your trace minerals. I guarantee if you exhaust all of those options, you will get almost steroid-like results in your physique. The statue of David wasn't on fucking steroids, man. Like, if you do the right things and you are chasing real workouts, like true suffering and true failure in the gym, you will get results that people genuinely question. They're like, there's no way you're natural. And it'll feel good when you get there. You'll be like, no, motherfucker, I am actually, but thank you. Like, and that's the thing, is like, I've had too many friends that have not even come close to scratching like the surface of their natural potential and their absolute highest echelon of genetic expression, and before they start testing these things, before they start trying these things. And you're all just a bunch of guinea pigs for whatever science is being tested out right now. And they all come at a cost. They always do. I remember when I was getting into fitness and everybody was pushing, what was that pre-workout at the time? It was Jack 3D. And everybody's like, you got to try it. And I'm like, I don't know about that one. Y'all are crazy. And sure enough, it had like amphetamines or something in it that was just amphetamines and anabolics in it, I believe. It's crazy. And then I remember the big thing was SARMs for a while. They're like, oh, it's not steroids. It's not steroids. It's selective androgen receptor, I think, modulators. There was a big thing for a while, and people were like snorting them. And I was like, no, dude, I'm not touching that crap. I knew people took it in pill form, and then for so long people were like, it's not steroids, it's not steroids, and then this study came out and it was like, nope, it is steroids. And I was like, oh, thank God, like I didn't touch that stuff. And then there were, I think right now it's still like peptides are very new. All of it. I'm like, no, dude, no. And then there's like HRT and TRT or whatever that's going on right now, and they're like, oh, this is all safe and whatnot. I'm still just like, absolutely not. Like, those aren't, I'm not doing it. I would rather focus on my sleep schedule. I would rather eat my protein just because, like, if I know for a fact myself, I have results that to me look unbelievable. And just in the fact that I still am not exhausting all of my natural resources, like, I can't even imagine what I would look like once I do exhaust all of those resources. Number one, my sleep. Some nights I'm getting 8 hours of sleep, but I'd say 3 out of 4 nights out of the week, I'm getting 6 hours of sleep. And I'm still getting great results in the gym. It's like, man, I can't wait to see what it's like when I get those, like, when I get a full week of 8 hours of sleep. I couldn't imagine what I'd look like. Like, and that's exciting to me. That's how many nights a week that I'm not getting full potential. And if I hit full potential, like my results now are like unbelievable to myself. It's like, oh man, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when I hit those like full results of like great sleep. Protein intake. Bro, I'm hitting my protein like maybe 5 days a week. If I hit 7 days a week for a whole fucking year, it would be insane. I can't imagine. I can't begin to imagine what it would look like. And so to me, it's exciting to see like, oh, let's keep going and hitting all of these like areas. And if I've been doing this for 14 years and I'm still not hitting all of these categories and I've got great results, I can guarantee you don't need steroids. You just need to exhaust the natural resources and exhaust them completely. I'm still not able to do it after 14 years and I'm trying every single fucking day. Getting great results. But that's it. To me, it's exciting. To me, it's like, dude, I know I'm going to hit them at some point in time for a full year. And when I hit them for a full year, bro, the sky's the goddamn limit. The sky is the goddamn limit for my size and strength. And I'm excited. Like that is exhilarating to me. So yeah, guaranteed none of them are exhausting all their options. Like none of them. I don't know what your take is on all of that.
Yeah, I think we're trusting in man rather than God. You know, we're trusting in these recent brand new things and medications and supplements and all these things that don't have long-term studies and long-term results, and it's scary. It's like, what are these antidepressants going to do to us? You know, what is all this sugar in our food going to do to us? All this processed food going to do to us in the long run, to our genetic makeup? Like, how's it going to affect evolution of mankind? We don't know yet, and that's a scary thing. And I know that evolution has been kind and has brought us onto this earth, and we are amazing creatures who are able to think for ourselves. You don't think you could trust that process? You don't think you could trust what has got us there? And so, I don't know, my only thing of advice for people is, you know, would you rather have the physique and the strength of man, or would you rather have a God physique and strength? Or would you rather have the happiness of man or the happiness of God? And that's all I gotta say.
Dude, yes. Just because, like, as a man, you like, would you say that you have completely exhausted all natural resources to become your highest potential for at least a year, every day for a year? Do you think you've exhausted all of those?
I don't think I've come close.
See, we've been doing this for 14 years. Imagine if we hit a full year.
Yeah.
Dude, and our results are amazing. And they're getting better and better and better. It's because we keep trying to exhaust those. And we're still fuck some of them up. Like, if we hit all of those, God gave us great health when we hit those 8 hours of sleep. We feel amazing. If we hit all of those, if we hit 8 hours of sleep every night for a year, how would you feel? How would you look? How would your testosterone look? If you hit the whatever grams of protein, for me, 250 every day for a year, I can't imagine what I would look like. If you hit your protein goal and your carbohydrates and your fat goals and your mineral goal every day for a year, how do you think you would look? It'd be disgusting.
Amazing.
It'd be crazy. If you stayed below 36 grams of sugar every day for a year, not damaging your testosterone levels, how do you think you would, where do you think your testosterone would be after a year? It'd be fucking stupid.
Be high, yeah.
So I don't know. I like to think about that because it's we haven't scratched the surface of what God gave us. Like we're barely even coming close to scratching the surface. And until you exhaust all of those natural resources that were given as gifts to you, your sleep, there's no telling what you can produce. Don't seek the quick fix. Embrace the suffering. Push a little fucking harder. Go to sleep earlier. Stop watching porn. Go to bed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like to think about these things. This is kind of exciting. It's exhilarating to think about, like, we've come this far in 14 years. And I feel like I'm very ahead in my physique from what because I did it the other day. I was standing in front of the mirror staring at myself, and I thought of my 16-year-old self. And I was like, dude, he never dreamed of being like this. This wasn't even in the books for me, dude. And to look at it and be like, damn, I did good. I've made him proud. I've made 16-year-old Tanner very proud. And to be like, I wonder what I'm going to look like in 10 years. I can't imagine it because I'm going to continue to try and exhaust every natural resource. It's going to take time. But I want to see what a full year looks like of exhausting all of those natural resources. Because if I can do that, bro, I can't imagine. Like, I'm already violently surpassed what I expected for myself. And so it's like, if I could do a full year, nobody's going to believe I'm natural. Nobody's going to believe it. And I don't care. Yeah. Oh, shit. All right. Should we go through goals?
Let's do it.
All right. What was your goal last week?
I'm pretty sure my goal was in relation to exploring my input options and exploring with Audible and all of that, which I did. And I don't know, we were talking a little bit before this, but it's just been a wild experience in terms of everything. You know, I think when you make goals for your life, I think you should choose an area you want to, and have an input and output for that area. And I think that's the easiest goals. And one of the problems I think I find myself with, and several other people, is we have several areas we want to improve in our lives. And so it's not as easy to just to do one input, one output. And like I love my fitness, I love my intellect, and I love my music, and all three of those I want to have input and output. And so it becomes extremely difficult when working a full-time job and to do all three of those. But I would be happy to say I am getting a good input and a good output, regardless of what area that is in. I am still getting an input. I mean, I'll listen to tons of podcasts, and I'm finding ways to write now. I've learned with habit stacking, dude, my favorite thing ever. Like literally in between sets, I'll just have a little notebook and I'll just try to expound upon ideas, and I absolutely love it. I mean, I'm getting those filthy pumps, and then I get to expound upon some ideas, organize some ideas, and I love to do that. And so combining it with something I love that I'm trying to build, it's just one of the best things that I think I can do. And that's been going really good for me. And so I'll build my goal off of that. Because I've been wanting to write, and writing has been one of my most difficult things to try to tackle. But so I think I found a compromise to where I lower my writing expectation. I was like, I'm not going to sit down on a keyboard and write for half an hour, but I could sit down in between sets of my workout and I could expound upon ideas on a notepad. And essentially, if I expound those ideas big enough, I'll have a book. And so that's my goal this week, is to write a lot in terms of habit stacking.
Okay. I like it. That's good. All right. So you're already writing and you just want to increase the output of writing while you're doing your things. I like it. I'm trying to remember what my goal was. I think it was just maintain and improve my momentum in my reading, um, which I did. Um, this last week, what all did I read? I'm reading around 4 to 6 books every week. I'm just consuming them. This last week I read The Science of Getting Rich, The Power of Consistency, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and Warrior of the Light. So I read 4 this week. I'm still reading Principles by Ray Dalio. So yeah, this week just maintain momentum on the books I'm consuming because I've made it. We're on week 27 out of the year, and I'm finally past what I needed to be. I'm finally where I'm supposed to be, or at least ahead of where I'm supposed to be. I finished book 29, so I'm like, let's fucking go. Let's keep going. So just maintain momentum. That's it. I don't have to increase, just maintain. If I can increase, cool, whatever. But I'm in a good spot. I know I'm going to hit my 50 books this year, so I'm happy. Just maintain momentum. That's it. Just maintain. And other than that, nothing else really. Fitness is good. Working out's good. Diet's good. So just maintain. That's it. Just keep doing what I'm doing. Please, God. All right. I think that concludes episode 33 of 2 Minutes to Life. Snap. We
Yeah.
will see you guys next week.